This is a massive legal victory, Jesse, a massive victory for law and order and for our constitutional republic and the sovereignty of the United States of America.
Yeah, except that it is not at all. See, that's Karoline Leavitt, and she is unsurprisingly excited that the Supreme Court announced just yesterday that at least for right now, they're going to allow the Trump administration to continue to use the Alien Enemies Act to deport Venezuelans that they allege, even if there's no evidence, are part of gangs or terrorists or whatever, all the way to El Salvador. And look, she'll be excited about that. But the idea that this is like an affirmation of law and order or anything, not at all. The entire point of this is that the Trump administration is saying we shouldn't have to have due process. We shouldn't have to do investigations. There shouldn't be hearings. Judges shouldn't get involved. We shouldn't have to provide any evidence. You can say that that's awesome. You can say that that's great. But what you can't say is that that has anything to do with the law or the Constitution, because it just doesn't. And we're gonna break down all of what the Supreme Court actually did, because it's also not quite the victory that she's presenting it to be. We'll get to that after we finish with what she had to say.
We called on the Supreme Court to rein in these activist judges like Judge Boasberg, who was completely out of line in trying to say that the president didn't have the executive authority to deport foreign terrorists off of our soil. We have always maintained the position at the White House that the president was well within his constitutional authority to do so. And this decision proves that President Trump and our administration have always been right from the beginning. He will continue to utilize the Alien Enemies Act to remove foreign terrorists and Tren de Aragua members, vicious gang members from American communities. And because of this ruling, the United States of America is a much safer place. Our team will get to work tomorrow to deport these heinous, violent foreign terrorists from our neighborhoods.
Okay, so every spokesperson, every press secretary has their own specific tick. Some of them I think are better at the job. Some are better, like off the cuff or whatever. What I love about her is that she has the most obvious tell ever. I wish that I could play poker with her, because the less evidence they actually have, the less constitutional ground they're actually on, the more she says the word terrorist. She just chants it over and over. Terrorist, foreign-born terrorist, terrorist, Tren de Aragua. And tomorrow on the show, we're gonna break down an analysis of what actual evidence there is of whether these individuals that are being shipped down to El Salvador are terrorists or have literally committed any crimes whatsoever. And they could not be on worse constitutional and legal ground in this. But like I said, we do need to also describe what it is that the Supreme Court did and what they didn't do. So just briefly, it was, yes, a 5-4 decision, as so many of them are these days, in which the High Court vacated Boasberg's order that blocked the use of the 18th century wartime law to deport immigrants with little or no due process. Again, we're not in a war, so it's insane that he would use that. How could we not have due process? But whatever. Anyway, they're not saying, oh no, that's sweet, do that forever. They just said legal challenges must take place in Texas, where the migrants are being held, and not in Washington, D.C. It's not addressing the actual constitutionality of using the Alien Enemies Act. Now, it's probably a prelude to doing that, because why would the challenges have to take place in Texas? I mean, the migrants aren't being gathered up in Texas. So you can just take anyone from anywhere and ship them to the place with the most corrupt courts, and then that's where it has to be? That doesn't make any sense. And so I feel like in the end, they're probably gonna say, yeah, do whatever you want. The Constitution doesn't count for anything. But at least as of right now, they haven't actually done that. And so 5-4, we do have a dissent, the liberals, and interestingly, Amy Coney Barrett. So the liberals said that this poses an extraordinary threat to the rule of law, that the majority of this court now rewards the government for its behavior with discretionary equitable relief is indefensible, except insofar as it's defended by 5 conservatives on the Supreme Court. And like I said, Amy Coney Barrett joined with them. MAGA is not at all happy about that. They're calling her a traitor and she can't be trusted and fake MAGA and all that. But anyway, Yaz, what do you make of this? Where do you see it going judicially?
Yeah, the Supreme Court, specifically the conservative wing of the Supreme Court, I guess excluding Amy Coney Barrett this time, has created a monster, and they will soon learn this if they haven't already. it seems like they should have known by now. They should be able to see what they've done, what they've created, especially since we're on the verge of a constitutional crisis with Trump as the president. Trump has already demonstrated contempt and disregard for the entire judicial branch of our government. He has already shown that he does not feel obligated to comply with court rulings. He's already attacked and blocked attorneys and entire law firms who represent clients in cases against Trump and Trump's interests, to the point that he has prevented them from doing their jobs and hindering their abilities to make money. And this gang that they keep talking about, I hadn't even heard about them until a few weeks ago. This is so obviously a political line. It's a mantra. It's a boogeyman. It's not an actual threat to the American people, at least not to the extent that we need to suspend due process to address this threat and send them to some prison camp in another country. It is unbelievable that the American people still fall for things like this. They use fear and they weaponize it, and they use that as an excuse to say, you know what, we can't afford to do things properly because doing things properly takes more time than we have, because this is such an acute and pressing and dangerous issue that we have to address it in the most succinct and unconstitutional and inhumane way possible, because that is what this threat demands from us. And it really is ridiculous. It goes against our values as Americans. It goes against the values that this country was founded on. And I know this isn't the first time that that's happened. This has happened several times throughout our history. And every time it's happened, it's been looked at later as a black mark on our history, right? It's never anything that has been celebrated. It's always something that is embarrassing. And we always say, maybe we could have dealt with that differently. But that fear that people feel, the minute you call somebody a gang member or a terrorist, immediately it's like, whatever, do what you get rid of them, Never mind the fact that a lot of these people probably aren't gang members, right? And then they're using things like social media posts to say that's enough proof. That's not a court case. That's not due process. That doesn't count.
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, that's why they keep just saying terrorists, terrorists, terrorists. Shut up. Don't think about it. Don't care about the Constitution. There's terrorists. There's terrorists. Could anyone answer the question, what act of terrorism was committed? What, like, even alleged? Literally, like, terrorists do terrorism. You can't be a terrorist without a terrorism, and she's got no risms. I haven't heard a single rism out of Karoline Leavitt. She just keeps saying it. It's meant for you to sit down and shut up, okay? And if it works like that, then I'm gonna start doing it too. So expect to hear a lot more in the damage report about terrorist carbon atoms clogging up our atmosphere. And so obviously we need to do something about climate change because there's terrorist atoms in the clouds. If you enjoyed that, then make sure that you never miss another video by subscribing. And if you want a little more, consider hitting the join button and becoming a member. So you're probably wondering, why would I do that? Well, when you do that, you get access to bonus content that I make every single week, and it's a lot of fun. You get custom emojis and more. If you join at tier 3, by the way, you even get access to a monthly member hangout with myself. And you'll get all that going forward, but you'll also unlock years of the back catalog that is literally 100 or more bonus clips and top 10 lists and debates and more. So what are you waiting for?